Hey, so I finally wrapped up the install on this SP Sabers Watto's Junkyard Mr Tyranus hilts, based off of Count Dooku's. In the current configuration, it's the Revenge of the Sith version with the chromed elbow here. So this is installed with Proffie v3.9 with a Goth3D Designs chassis. So in there we have our illuminated NeoPixel connector by Stock Custom Works. Right now I have the magnetic ring on right now. Basically the FX emitter. It's a little bit hard to remove with gloves. But magnetic ring for the FX emitter. If you don't want that in, or if you don't need a blade in, if you want to put it on for display, there is a static blade plug here. Just insert that in and then tighten it with the blade retention screw there. So putting that back on. I had to reapply the grips. They are a little bit raised. I tried my best to kind of get it as snug as possible and have it kind of line up against the edges. So for this setup, we have two buttons. We have I set it up so that the auxiliary switch is up here. That nice tactile clicky feeling over there. And the main switch is down here. So it's not as clicky. There were some kind of clearance issues that I needed to work through with that. So to access the chassis, it's a lot easier than kind of what we envisioned or kind of what we had in mind originally. So I have the screw for the cover tech epoxy to the actual cover tech itself. That way all you have to do to access the chassis is just unscrew the cover tech. And that acts as kind of your pommel and chassis retention. So once you have that unscrewed, you can just gently pull that out. And there is your chassis. So with this design, we have to basically put the entirety of the soundboard in this tiny section over here, which presents quite a few challenges. So here's your chassis. You'll notice that there are a bunch of pins over here. These basically interface with the rest of the hilts to complete the connection with the battery, with the NeoPixel connector, as well as with the switch up here. So over here, you have a kill switch. Currently it's in the off position, facing towards the pommel. Once you toggle it on, it turns on, but because it's not connected to a battery yet, it's not actually going to turn on until you insert it into the hilts. Up here you also have access to the SD card, as well as the micro USB port, if you want, once you want to configure the Proffie. So with this setup, because the battery is kind of fixed inside the grip, there's also a recharge port module. So you notice that the chassis module has like a bunch of pins and the recharge module has two, basically just power or battery positive and negative. So to recharge the saber, all you have to do is just plug in a 2.1 round barrel recharge connector, and then you insert it flat. So you notice that the recharge module also has a flat side. So the flat side faces towards this switch. So once you have the barrel connector plugged in, or maybe not even plugged in, you can insert the recharge module in. So slide that in. You'll feel that it kind of makes that connection, and then you can insert your charger. So once you have the charger inserted, it should show red if it's charging, and then once it's complete charging, once it's done charging, it should show green. So just removing that. So let's insert the chassis into the saber. So toggling on the kill switch to the on position. So right now it doesn't really do anything because it's not connected to the battery. And when you're inserting the chassis, make sure that the flat side over here with this switch is lined up with the red trigger. And this bar up here is facing the top. So just carefully slide it in. Try not to touch the hilts with any of these pins as you're doing so. So just sliding it in. Try to align this bar with this groove over here. And then once it reaches about here, you may need to push it in with just a little bit more force because the diameter over here, this ring needs to kind of mate or be inserted into the elbow. So once the connection is completed, you'll hear the boot sound. Right now I just have a free font from Kyberphonic in there. It's just the Battlefront sound font. And then to lock everything in place, just screw in the cover tuck wheel. So down here we have our main switch. Got our illuminated NeoPixel connector up there. Auxiliary up here. I made this auxiliary just because it's a lot easier to access, and most of the features that you want is pretty much based around the auxiliary anyways. So I've also configured twist off and swing on, but it is a little bit challenging because of where the Proffie is placed, as well as their orientation. So you can either hit the main button again to turn it off, or if you want to slide your grip down over here and twist it like that, that's where it registers the twist off. And also have swing on there. When you're holding the saber here, if you want to do twist off, you can also angle the saber down. Maybe hold it about here, angle the saber down, and twist it. So I don't have a short demo test blade, but I'm going to insert a full-length 7/8 inch blade and just show off some of the features of the saber. So here I have pretty much a full-length 36 inch 7/8 inch blade. So I also have blade detection set up on this because we're using a stock CustomWorks NeoPixel connector. So let's insert that in, and it's going to be a little bit tricky for me to actually tighten the retention screw, but I'll give it a try. Oops. So inserting that in, and then the blade retention screw is actually right under the claw, right there. So just tighten that in. So now that we got that in, blaster blocks, smooth swing. So the connection wasn't completely connected, it's still a little bit loose. Now we got the blade inserted. So you got blaster blocks with the auxiliary button. You got smooth swing. Can't really trigger accent swings like this. Got flash on flash. So because of the angled orientation of the Proffie, it is a little bit trickier to trigger flash on flash, especially because you're using a 7-inch blade. It feels not as sturdy as a 1-inch. So again, twist off, swing on. Actually, I'm not going to risk the swing on there. So there you have it. There's your Mr. Tyranus, and it's finally installed with a Proffie v3.9 with a Goth3D Designs chassis. So thank you so much for letting me work on this, and I'm sorry it took so long, but there were quite a few complications with this hilt, but it's finally done and ready to ship back to you. So thank you so much for your patience, and may the force be with you.